Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron. Do you have construction needs? Maybe you need to get stuff done around the house, or maybe you need a pergola. Check out K&H Construction out of Waxahachie. Chris Helms, he's a local guy. He'll get you all fixed up, and let him know DV LeBron sent you. Today, my very special guest is Mr. Tom Sauer. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great. Hey, thanks, DV. Appreciate you having me on.
He is the founder of Miramar Health, and he, just like a lot of veterans that I've had on this show, he got out of the service and decided he wanted to help society, help the world, and help his brothers and sisters in arms with mental health. So he started Miramar Health. He was EOD. He did a lot of high-speed stuff, served his country, albeit as an officer. I won't give him too much crap about that. But I thank you so much again for coming on the show, sir, and thank you so much for your service.
It's very kind of you. Appreciate it. Also, a caveat, I was an enlisted guy first. So I started off as a enlisted Marine, actually. Yeah, I was a rifleman, so I joined the military right after high school. So actually, it's a good intro because my dad struggled with drugs, alcohol, depression, anxiety, standard. And honestly, I'm not going to say that my situation is unique. We all know somebody. I'm sure you do, folks, in your personal life, either your family, people close to you, and probably everyone watching this, listening to this, knows somebody like that. And so obviously, so my situation wasn't terribly unique, but about 5 days before I graduated from high school and 3 weeks before I left for the Marines, my dad died of a meth overdose. And this was this is 1999, so the late 90s. He was living out in Barstow, California, in the desert. It's what's going on around there.
Yeah.
So that was pretty rough on me, obviously, just naturally. But then 3 weeks later, my ass got kicked into adulthood. I joined the Marine Corps right then and there. And I spent 3 years in the Marines, rather. And then while I was in the Marines for those 3 years, I applied for a commissioning program. So then I somehow found my way into the Naval Academy in Annapolis. And it was a boyhood dream that I always had. And so I knew I couldn't get in a high school. I was not in good shape. My grades weren't that great. So I was like, so I figured the way to try, if I could get in, is from the enlisted side. And thankfully it worked. Yeah. So I graduated there in 2006. Actually, we just moved in a new house. And so I'm still putting up all my crap. So I've got like my little, I love you all.
I love you all.
Yeah, I've still got a couple of things. I haven't put up my paddle yet or anything like that. But anyway. Yeah, I did that, and then I got a Navy commission, mostly because I was like a very bad midshipman. I wasn't the best. I was a very good Marine, but I was not the best midshipman. I didn't have the best grades, and then I started having fun. So I had maybe a little too much fun. So I had to spend a lot of time on restriction, and when you get in trouble, it's like getting grounded. Spent a lot of time doing that. I even had to go stand in front of the admiral a couple of times and explain to him why he should let me graduate. That was fun, but that's okay. It's mostly harmless stuff, nothing too crazy. It's mostly drinking and just like drinking when I'm not supposed to and partying. It was like nothing crazy. But then, so then I got a Navy commission and then drove ships for a few years first because I didn't have the highest class rank at Naval Academy. So surface warfare chose me. So I got, I think the third or fourth to last choice and assignment, which was a amphibious assault ship called USS Kearsarge out of Norfolk.
I know. I've heard of it.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, a lot of people thought, oh, God, an amphib ship out of Norfolk, that's terrible. Because a lot of the other kids who were going service warfare, they wanted the shiny new destroyer out of Hawaii or San Diego. And I got the amphib in Virginia. And also, my life, I loved it. It was a great time. I really enjoyed it. And then, but I always wanted to do something different. I knew that, so I enjoyed my time as SWO, but then service warfare officer, driving ships. So I applied to EOD, and in 2008, late 2008, early 2009, got accepted. Started EOD training in 2009, so that's dive school, EOD school, bomb disposal school, and then airborne training, and then some shooting schools, and some more shooting schools, and some more blowing things up schools. And I was out in Guam, actually. You know, what's funny, man, is I know I was hearing about your day job, and it sounds crazier than mine, but my my job was out there in Guam. I thought I was going to be going to Iraq all the time.
Mhm.
I've only had in my career, I've only had one stint in Iraq, and it's pretty uneventful, to be honest.
Mhm.
I'm one of the few guys who didn't go to Afghanistan, which I know sounds weird because why we all joined, that's where the fight was. But I got sent to the Western Pacific, kind of, not because I asked to, because they sent me. A lot of things I got sent places, not where I wanted to go. But anyway, so I went out there and I did a ton of great stuff out there because I look at, especially the Pacific is really the future.
It's beautiful.
It is, but it's also, that's where we really got to, as a country, as far as the military goes, we really need to focus on that.
Yes, sir.
We need to get out of the desert and the mountains, so to speak. We're already out of there for the most part, but we're still a little involved. And we stay out of Eastern Europe, hopefully, and then, but we really need to focus on having a presence in the Western Pacific, East Asia, all that. So I had a really great time there. Did some really interesting things. Worked with a lot of partner nations, which was fun. I did things with the Indians, the Nepalese, the Filipinos, the Australians, the New Zealand, Kiwis, New Zealand, Malaysia, Singapore, Korea, Japan, a ton, all that stuff. Spent a ton of time out there. Really enjoyed it. And then when I got out, I wanted to do something different. But the reason I got out was mostly because unlike other jobs in the Navy, Navy EOD officers, and in a similar sense, the SEAL officers have a similar problem within their career, is that once you get to a certain point, like I'd say the mid-grade lieutenant or captain, which that'd be like an 03. So basically when you're at about the 6 to 8 year point, right, as an officer, so you're kind of transitioning from being a junior officer to a mid-grade officer. Right around that point, you stop doing all the fun stuff. You're no longer jumping out of planes, blowing stuff up with your friends, stuff like that. It's mostly all desk jobs, right? Where it's just PowerPoints and emails and spreadsheets and more PowerPoints and a lot of meetings, and you're in an office. That's kind of what it turns into. So unfortunately, after I did a couple of tours, did some really cool stuff. I was attached to Army Special Forces for a couple of years. Great stuff. And I got out. I'm like, I'm not really having fun anymore. So then I got sent on a staff job. The Navy, after my time in Guam, I went to San Diego, was stationed in beautiful Coronado. It's lovely out there, out in San Diego. Worked on a staff, worked for a Commodore and then for an Admiral. And then I figured I might as well try to do some education, some judge education. So then I got really lucky, and the Navy made a terrible mistake, and they let me go to business school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did a part-time MBA program at UCLA. Like I said, I'm still putting up all my stuff.
Yeah,
but I did a part-time MBA program at UCLA, and then while I was sitting in the classroom there, I was like, there's only one other military guy there. But I'm looking around, I'm like, I'm not a genius or anything like that. I'm not super smart or anything like that, but I have a brain that works decently well. I'm like, I'm at least as smart as that guy over there. And that guy over there is making a lot more money than I am. He's got a lot more freedom over his life. He just do things, right? He owns a company, he does all this stuff. And I'm like, why can't I do something like what he does, at least in something? So then afterwards I got sent. I was going through language school afterwards. I was going to learn a language, going to go back overseas to Thailand. And I was going through school for that. And then I found out that job went away. They took that job away. And it's going to be staying at the Pentagon again. It's more of the same. I'm like, screw it, I'm out. So I'd already fulfilled all my obligations. So I took a big risk because I was at 16 years of service. And everyone's like, you only had 4 more years. Why didn't you?
4 more.
And you know what? I decided to take the chance. I bet on myself because I even did the math. And it's, hey, if I stuck around another 4 years, really like the key years, like your late 30s, early 40s, where it's like these are key times where you can really hustle. And so I decided to take that chance anyways, because if I did wait till my 20 years, I would still be an 04 because I was enlisted first. I did the math on the pension, and I don't think getting a check it come out like $25,000, $30,000 a year pre-tax is really worth me putting in another 4 years. Let's take a chance. And it's want a little more freedom and make something more impactful. And I'll tell you what, I think today, my company, I'm not going to say me, but it's really the guys on my team, are doing something that's way more impactful, and I think way more important than anything I did in the military or anything like that. So our company we're our Miramar Health. We have a parent company, which is me. I'm the parent company, but it's called Miramar Health. And we do very intensive mental health treatment, addiction treatment exclusively for veterans, for the VA. We're what's called a community care provider. So if you've ever worked with the VA, some of your audiences that had worked with the VA, occasionally, sometimes they can refer you out in town to contract providers, and that's what we are.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, yeah. That's part of that. That's how I started to get involved in politics, because I became my own lobbyist because I saw what the VA was doing. And it then became bigger than just me shilling for my own company, trying to get business for my company. It was really, it just came out, wait, this is way bigger than just me. You guys were dying and denied care. And it's really the boots on the ground providers at VA, the social workers, the nurses, the therapists, like those are great folks. Now, there's nothing against them.
It's a bureaucracy. It moves slow.
100%. So then I found myself about a year or so into I found myself, I testified before the House Veterans Affairs Committee. I might be testifying again, actually, in the not too distant future. Mm-hmm. But all that really is about is getting veterans the care they need immediately. I'm not trying to say don't go to the VA, but if the VA is full, they shouldn't put you on a waiting list until a bed opens up for 30 days, especially when someone's in a mental health crisis or an addiction crisis. Like, you don't have days, you don't have weeks, you've got like hours, really. Because when somebody says they decide to raise their hand and say, hey, I need help, you need to grab that guy or gal. It's usually guys. You need to grab that guy by the collar. You need to get them off the X, as we'd say, right? And get them into care. So that's one thing I deal with the VA. But here's what's crazy. I don't know if you know this. Well, your audience probably doesn't know this. How many employees do you think the VA has?
Oh,
wow, guess.
It would probably be in the 100,000 range, or 40 to 100,000.
480,000. Now, that's before some of the reduction in force that the secretary is doing right now, but still about 480,000. To give you an idea, is that the VA has more employees than the United States Army has soldiers.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's nuts. It's huge. Now, have you ever been to the Dallas VA?
Not Dallas. I've been to San Antonio.
Loma Linda is a maze, but Dallas is special. I've been to Loma Linda, and Dallas is a special kind of animal. But going back to the stuff you were saying, I remember Tahiti Ramas in Guam, and that they had the biggest, at the time, they had the biggest Kmart in the world or something like that.
That's what they like.
That they like to brag about that. And I was on the Peleliu, so I know about the Gator Navy. Yeah, I've been through that. But you saw a point in your career where it was time to go. I left at 10, and I had people tell me, dude, you're halfway there. And while I didn't get into business and I just kept going with government, it was time to go. There was a shift in the way and we were chopping it around the same time, sir, because I went in 96. You were 99, 2000 roughly, and I got out in 06, and we were chopping around the same time, and it was just it was a change in there. But you get out and you saw this need, because you had to have seen this need in our brothers and sisters in arms, because you could have went into anything. You went to UCLA, you got your MBA, you got your degree from over there. You could have been the stock trader. You could have been flipping houses. You could have been a lot of things.
I know.
But you decide you want to help brothers and sisters in arms. You're going up to Congress. You probably met my congressman, Jake Ellis. He's up there. And
Elsie. I don't think I've met him yet. Okay.
Fighter pilot. He's done a lot as far as the VA is concerned. He's big on veterans issues, but he was a brown shoe, complete brown shoe. Yeah. Sounds like Buzz Lightyear when he's talking. I do, but he's awesome. He's pretty awesome. He's been on the show a couple of times, but
that's awesome. No, that's good. Yeah, you're right though. It was, I wanted to do something that was meaningful. I think that would help folks. And so you're absolutely right though. This is a crazy thing, but I've lost way more friends to addiction and suicide than I have to Al Qaeda, ISIS, Taliban combined. I mean that quite literally. And he asked a lot of folks, you might be the same for you or other folks who spent some time in, we hear it all the time, just hear, oh, another suicide, or somebody lost touch, fell off the map, nobody can find them, they died. That's usually that's addiction or suicide. Sometimes it's hard to tell because sometimes it's suicide by overdose. It's a blurred line. We got what's what. So yeah, and that was something that we wanted to stop. And so we've treated, so a typical veteran who comes to us, it's not just like, oh, we give them a counseling session, send them on the way. No, they're usually coming and spending a typical like minimum 30 days with us, right? Where they come and stay with us for a while. And usually 60, 90, 120 or more. We do everything from like the medical, especially if they're addicted, the medical detox, stabilization. Then we get them through residential phase. And then, and then we offer some outpatient, some other services out there. And we hand them back off essentially in much better shape, typically back to the VA, but we coordinate work with them all the time. And if things like, we've had some really good success stories, but one thing as well, man, that's really important is like nobody bats 1,000. We've had some sad cases too, obviously. And it's one of the things that's important is like, I'm a big fan. I watch Tucker Carlson a lot. There's a few times, and actually I've had the pleasure of meeting him a few times.
Wow.
And we text back and forth. It's really weird.
That's pretty cool.
Someone I knew about, we'll talk back and forth. But he's gone on about treatment as far as like how it doesn't work. And I think he makes some good points. I mean that really sincerely. And there are also a lot of really corrupt treatment centers out there who just run sloppy programs or primarily just concerned with charging the insurance companies and making money off of it. And frankly, in some cases, they're almost incentivized for somebody to relapse and to come back, which is, it's one of those things that we say, though, is that, we'd love to hear from you, but we hope to never see you again, so to speak. You know what I mean?
No, Tom, I know exactly what you're talking about there, because when a lot of guys that got out around the same time as me that I got to know, the VA at that time was throwing pills at you.
Yeah.
When you got out, they were throwing, oh, you got anxiety? Here's some Xanax. Can't sleep? Here's some Ambien. Need to go to this, that, the other. They were handing pills to you. And oh, you got some pain? Here's some oxycodone. Enjoy. Yeah. And then they found out, oh crap, there were people dying. So let me just pull that away. So then you had the addiction part. And some, when they couldn't get the drugs, they went to street drugs. So you had that. Yeah. And then you had where there was a vet center. In my experience, I went to a vet center because I went through the tunnel. I went through a very horrible time in my life. And I would say it was about 8 years ago when I said no more. But it was, there was so many people that go through the tunnel and they go to this vet thing. And I went to a vet center and the guy didn't know that I was talking to, didn't know what he was doing. So some people are ready for exposure therapy. Right. Some people need help before they even get there. Maybe CBT. Not everybody's ready to just throw it right in front of my face and I wasn't. And that was one of those things where I spiraled after that very bad. And then the VA just threw, oh, you need Fexer, you need this, you need that, you need this. It was a very difficult time navigating the mental health through the VA. But I am just a small story, and so many of my brothers and sisters who went through that and didn't make it. They survived a war. Some of them did so much more than me. They did so much more, and they sacrificed so much more than me. And they got here and they couldn't live with the peace. They couldn't live with the quiet. And so places like yours, you're dealing with the addiction part, which there's many brothers and sisters in arms dealing with it. Why'd you decide to tackle that part? Because I know, like I said, there's a lot, but why did you decide to tackle that part?
To steal the words from the president, I just want people to stop dying. Man. And we still get we get letters and emails and folks write back to us. I've had mothers write to us. And sometimes it's always weird that a lot of times they'll write it and address it to me, and I'm flattered by that, but I immediately scan that, send it out to the whole company, redact it as I need to, And I'm like, okay, I know this is addressed to me, but this is actually addressed to all of you guys, the staff, the team, the caseworker, the case managers, the therapists, the doctors, the nurses. Like, this is actually addressed to you, basically saying, one guy was really good. What I thought was really nice is he sent us a copy of his pay stub from the job that he got, because he's finally able to hold down a job. Wow. And so sent his first paycheck, right? And he's working at like an assisted living home or something. And but that was just like really cool to see that. And look, dude, I'm in the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty small. I'm not going to change the world, and I know that. But if I can change the individual worlds, change this person, we can change this person's world, we can change this person's world, then okay, that's
it's one vet, one brother, one sister at a time. I think I did hinder myself when I would approach that. Now I'm better. Now I can approach and understand that I can't save that person. What I could do is try to help them a little bit, but I definitely cannot absorb their pain. And before I would absorb it, and it would just destroy me. It would send me down a bad place. But there's just so many that need that help. You see them sometimes just on social media where they're walking around in this daze, and you can physically tell they're hurting. And just to step up on that's an individual helping those individuals, but you get so many of those individuals. Think about that life that came out of the tunnel, and now they're doing, like you said, they're working in here or they're doing that. Has there been one story that really just shook you, where you said, man, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be?
Yeah, I would say one of them as well. There's a guy, his name is Paul. Leave it at that. This guy was an exceptionally accomplished man, because also it's really interesting. We run the full spectrum. We used to have some folks that you would define as exceptionally high performing human beings, like through the roof.
Yeah.
And we have other guys, to be completely honest, it's like fairly low performing, have a hard time holding a job, not that bright. I mean, just being honest, like just in general. And then you throw some drugs and alcohol in there, and it's all over. Because sometimes, for some folks, like, hey, what's their idea of success? Sometimes just success means they're alive, they're sober, right? They have a job, they can pay their rent. And then from there, it's like maybe they can start like reconnecting with their family, right? Maybe they can meet somebody, have relationships, build their life up again. And sometimes that's success. And then so that's what on the lower end of like the agency performance spectrum, depending on how you define that. But on the one guy, Paul, this guy was an all-American linebacker at Stanford. Then he went to Stanford Law School. Then he also joined the Marine Corps Reserve, and he was a Cobra pilot. Flew attack helicopters for the Marines. Flew in Desert Storm back in 91. Then he was in the reserves, was a successful lawyer in California. He was an assistant district attorney. Did really high-powered stuff. But he's still in the reserves. So then when, Iraq Part 2 happens, when in 2003, he went over there. He had a bad crash, apparently, or a bad incident. I didn't really get all the details or anything like that, but he got a pretty severe TBI, traumatic brain injury. And when he came back from that, afterwards, he went back home and was practicing law, and he was not the same person after that. And it happens, right? Sometimes their personality changes completely, became a raging drunk, lost his law license. Apparently, I think there was even a couple like cases that got overturned because of him, all sorts of stuff. And then drank himself to death over a period of a few years. And then by the time we got to him, he was out in the California desert. His estranged wife ran him down, and we found him, and he was about to get evicted from a small house out in the desert. And when our team got to him, somebody made a phone call. They called the VA at Loma Linda. They were able to get the referral, and they came in the house. He was just surrounded by empty beer bottles and filth, and he looked like a bag of bones. And he was probably by then weighing 140 pounds when the guy should be close to 200. You look like he was like 90 years old. Turns out he's only like in his mid 50s. Yeah. And spent, I think, 4 months with us. And then you get to see over time, you stop by and visit him, and also you see the life and the color. come back to him, and he's reading books, and he's almost like, and he's quite the scholar as well. So he ends up like holding court with everyone, becoming a tutor, helping other veterans like for their GED exams and all that other stuff. I mean, it was just awesome. So seeing a case like that, and then he still has his demons, of course, who doesn't? And then reunited with his wife. And last I heard, like I said, we love hearing from him. We never want to see you again. Last I heard, he's doing well, and I hope that he still is. One other case that's actually pretty wild, and I actually have permission to show this to you because we got a release. He gave a full public release of this. I love doing the before and afters here, right? So I'll show you a couple of these here. You'll bear with me.
Oh, that's fine.
I'll hold it up to the camera, but one guy right here. So I'm going to show you. I can share his name, but I won't share his name. But we do have his picture, and he signed a full release, so I feel comfortable saying this because okay. See that guy right there?
Wow.
That was back in February, right? Looked pretty rough. Here's him in April.
Oh my God.
Do that again. Before, after. Now, I'm not trying to say this is a glow up, so to speak, or like you're getting a makeover. It's not about that.
Glow up.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you met that guy in the after picture and he showed you his before picture, I'd be like, oh, is your dad dying of cancer? Going through chemotherapy right now? Because that's what you would have thought. That's cool, right? And like that sort of thing is great. And people just get life back in them. You just really do see just the color, their eyes are different, just have life in their eyes. I mean, some people, when they come to us, look like zombies. I mean,
for me, now, I don't know if you incorporate this in your treatment, but for me, and I don't shy away from this, for me, it was God. I needed God. I needed Jesus Christ. I needed that in my life to get me through my tunnel. And the deal I made with him was that if he repaired me, repaired my life, repaired my marriage, I would never ever turn from him. Now, that's not to say that I didn't have a beautiful person down at the VA down in Waco who really helped me get through a lot of things and at least learn the techniques, CBT, grounding, those kind of things. I'm not saying that there haven't been those persons, but that was the multiplier. The multiplier for me was God. Folks, guys, sisters, if you are hurting, I don't care how you get there. For me, it was faith. You get there how you get there. I don't care. Just get there. Do not quit. You can't end it. We need you there to be a voice. That said, is that kind of, do you incorporate, maybe even if it's a bland part of like just a generic type faith thing in there? What's that program look like?
Right. No, you're absolutely right. What we actually do whenever they come to us, we really try to tailor it to them. Like when we're doing our assessment, we learn there and really we care about what works. For many of them, I'd say most of them, it's going to be at least somewhat faith-based. For a lot of folks, look, one of the programs that when especially come for talking addiction that consistently works if you work it really is 12-step, right? Which is tough. And it's really hard, right? But it does seem to work, which also requires you to have a belief in a higher power. But no, for me, I'm a Christian, I'm Catholic, but obviously just because of the nature of our program and our funding, we cannot be explicitly those things. My staff is not, in our mind, the way we look at it. It's interesting too, because my business partner is also his faith is a big part of his life. He's an evangelical, Protestant evangelical. I'm the more Catholic guy. Yeah, no, I get it, but we get along great. We're in different rooms in the same house.
The fight happened a long time ago. We're good now.
Yeah, so as C.S. Lewis says, different rooms in the same house. But anyways, that is a big part we offer. But the way we look at it is like, look, we're here to save your life, keep you alive. And then maybe hopefully along the way, you'll find God. But also, again, that's a very personal thing. Us foisting it upon them, like shoving a Bible in their face, is you might actually get the opposite effect, right? When you do that. But no, for me, it's a big part. It's one of the things I think about as well is my father, who did, like I said, die of an overdose, but later in his life, he did become pretty devout in his faith. He's as Catholic as well. And I remember he actually, so much so, before, like, only about a year or two before he died, he took a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. I think that was his trying to get away from it and then come back, and he relapsed and went away. And when he came back to Jerusalem, he gave me this rosary, and I still have it. It's on my desk. I pray it. And obviously, I know this isn't for everybody, but this is for me. But he gave that to me. It's one of the few things I have still to remind me of him, like physical things.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's a big part for me, man. But again, like we certainly don't discourage it. If anything, we encourage it, but we're not there to foist it upon people. There's depends who you talk to, though.
Right.
What keeps them alive, keeps them sober, keeps them healthy, and what works. So
it's crazy, our similarities, sir. My dad was a Marine, Vietnam.
Okay.
He came back with the needle habit, and while he did kick it for a little while, he could never get through those demons, and eventually it led to his death.
Yeah.
And so I lost him early. I lost him shortly. Like, you were probably about 20 when you lost him.
I died in 99, actually, right before I left for boot camp.
So you were 18, right? Roughly. Yeah, you were about 18. I lost mine right before my 14th birthday. So we both had a dad who dealt with that. I don't know if your dad was a vet. Mine was Marine, and just the stuff that brings. And then to turn it around and do this, address addiction and address these depressions, the PTSDs, the things that people are going through in that, and especially our brothers and sisters in arms. Now, when a vet comes to you, tell me about the actual system. A vet comes to you, says, and maybe not to you, but just in general.
Yeah.
Tell them, I'm suffering. I got nightmares. I'm at the worst point in my life. Go.
What's interesting, though, is a little bit the way it works. It usually starts with the VA, right? Because we don't actually we don't really market ourselves in that way. We just have relationships with about a dozen different VA hospitals in the Western United States. That's who we're contracted with. And so usually the first touch point that a veteran has when they come to us is not with us directly. It's actually usually with their VA provider or social worker. And more often than not, they're coming in through the emergency room. As in they overdosed and survived, or they had a pretty severe incident, or their addiction is so bad, their mental health is so bad, they are indigent, right? Or they're homeless or semi-homeless and whatnot. So it's usually a social worker that is talking first, and then they reach out to us, the social workers do, the VA does, and then we do an assessment, we just share some basic information, say, okay, we'll bring them in, we go get them usually, and sometimes we send one of our team. If they're from like San Francisco, we get a number from San Francisco, we fly a guy up there, picks him up at the hospital, flies him down, and then but we've gotten guys from Montana, we've gotten guys from Washington State, got one from Hawaii. But what we'll do is, so then when they come to us, we're there. It's just a lot of it's really clinical stuff, but it's like, hey, make them immediately feel safe at home. We go through their basic assessments, then that's all the medical stuff. We're gonna do your analysis, see how much drugs you have in your system, all the standard stuff. They'll check in with our physician, our nurses, but then it's there to, hey, especially if it's detox, if they got a lot of drugs in their system and they're detoxed now. Honestly, we don't do not a whole lot of therapy. You're in detox. You're here to chill out, eat, sleep, clean, and just ride it out. And we can prescribe them meds that will help them ease the withdrawal, especially if you're talking opiates and whatnot. So to help them through that, because it just becomes a miserable experience. But some folks have really severe alcoholism, like they need meds to get detoxed out. If you really badly enough, your alcohol withdrawal can kill you.
It will kill you, yes.
So that's what that process is. And that's anywhere from minimum 3 days, usually could go all the way up to 10 days, depending on where they're at, and they're a little more stable. And then we start the therapy process from there. And so then that's individual therapy, group therapy. We've got all sorts of activities. It's usually tailor-made to our group, our cohort. We keep it really small. So what we like, the idea is that we don't have like a big hospital. So we've got houses in Southern California, like nice houses, nice neighborhoods, get along with the neighbors. no problems, anything like that. But the thing is, it doesn't feel like they're in like a hospital. Like a lot of times if you're in like a psych hospital or you're like at a big VA hospital, there's, how do you say this, like a lot of fluorescent lighting and paper gowns and slippers. We do that. So that the idea being that when a guy, like I talked to one guy who's a former Army Ranger, and he said, I don't really feel like I'm in treatment. I feel like I'm in a house with my friends, and I made a friend, and we're just going through this process together. And so we try to keep it really small and intimate. So usually rarely is there more than, if you're there as a veteran, there's rarely more than 4 or 5 other people with you in that house, and you're usually outnumbered by staff usually. So it's meant to make them comfortable, but you try to make their life a little bit comfortable and easy, because the process of going through treatment is really hard.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally, all that stuff. It's really, and a lot of times physically too, because even when you're out of our detox period, doesn't mean you're all better. You're at a point where you're stable, where you can, like, time to start doing the work. Doesn't mean you're okay. And I gotta put a caveat on all of this. I'm not a clinician. I'm not a physician. I do not pretend to be one. So these are just my observations and as a layman and things I learned from here. A lot of this all started with me just starting the company, hiring folks, having to get the right team. Getting the right team is so important. We feel that finally we've got a great one. We have had ups and downs, just like any business. And a lot of my time is actually now, as the founder and CEO, most of my time is focused externally from the company, kind of the way that, like, it's not like being the captain of a ship, where it's like the XO, the executive COO, they're the ones running the day-to-day. Mm-hmm. It's like the captain who's mostly focused with what's happening outside the ship. You're communicating to bosses, all that stuff. So a lot of my time is spent, frankly, on everything from like the accounting stuff, legal stuff, some marketing stuff, dealing with the government, maintaining relationships with like a lot of business type stuff, frankly. Like dealing with our big vendors, our billing company, some of our members of our PR team, folks we're working with in DC for lobbying and whatnot. So a lot of time is actually, for my time at least, is spent on that. When we were really small, we were actually quite focused on I was a little bit more involved, but now I've got a really good team. Now I'd stop in on the house and say hi to them and all that. I still do that from time to time, but sometimes it sounds weird, but every once in a while I show up and then some people are like, oh, the boss is here, right? Every once in a while people start coming in with problems that they want you to fix that I'm not in a position to fix, because again, I'm not a clinician. I'm not a physician. So a lot of that I really rely on my team to do nowadays. But it was like starting off I was a little bit more involved in a lot of that stuff.
Trying to find the people that care, has that been difficult? Because there's a difference between having a doctorate, psych master's, social work, and actually being able to be educated enough to do the job. And there's a difference between that and caring. Has that been a difficult thing to find?
Surprisingly, a lot of folks really do care, because a lot of folks wouldn't be in that line of work if they didn't, if you're not a people person. I'll say this much though, and this is a controversial opinion I'll say here, and then I'll tell you my executive director, who's a therapist by trade, who kind of he's my general manager. Mm-hmm. He's a therapist by trade. He's a therapist as well. Is one thing that he'll say is that there are a lot of people who are in the mental health field. That's either therapists, psych nurses, counselors, anything like that. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not even saying most of them, right? But there's a disproportionately high number of people who are in that field because they've got their own issues and they're trying to work it out themselves. And sometimes they project their problems onto the patient. Now, fortunately, we haven't had to deal with that too often. We've had to deal with it a little bit, though. Like I said, I'm really glad we've got the good team we've had now.
It does happen. It does happen. No, it does happen.
It's sometimes it's folks who are just, again, either working through their own mental health issues as well, or again, projecting on others, haven't quite sorted it out. And that can impact things a lot. And then also we've got a pretty good chunk of our employees have been veterans as well, which is really helpful. And then we've also got a number of employees who are in recovery themselves. Now, they're many years sober. They're 10, 15 years they've been sober, but a lot of them had, I'm really surprised, actually. A couple of folks, as I got to know them, they volunteered to me some of the stuff they're past. Like, oh, really? Oh, shit. Okay.
And sharing, very much a sharer. Yeah.
And
Well, who better to deal with the devil than somebody who's dealt with him?
I agree. However, there are some folks, not most, not all, not even most, but some who also, those are the ones still have to watch out for too. Because sometimes it's still,
it's too close. It's too close of a.
Yeah, no, it is. And also being a therapist is, because I even have a lot of criticisms of the therapy industry as a whole. I'm not saying it isn't good. I'm not saying we don't need it. But I feel that there are some folks out there that are in there that a lot of folks, I think, seek out therapy almost as like a prophylactic. I don't know if that's always the best move, because sometimes you find yourself being told that there's something wrong with you when there isn't really anything. You just got to work some stuff out. Like, we don't have that. The folks we do, so the therapists that aren't working, they're working hard, and the patients that they work with are folks who
they need it.
Are working through some shit. Like really heavy stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to, because we're in Orange County, California, which is a pretty affluent part of the United States, right? So there's a lot of other therapists out there who work out of an office, and it's like a lot of their time is spent giving self-assurance to a wealthy Orange County wine mom who hates her husband and her kids don't respect her anymore, and maybe that's for Xanax or something. There's some of that where, and just getting a lot of head pats from a therapist. People go to that for some reason.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the best use of someone's time and money in therapy. However, I think they're really serious situations like folks we deal with that are.
No, some people pay just for the affirmations.
Yeah.
And you're okay.
Like, hey, you just need to get your shit together.
Yeah. No,
it happens. And it doesn't mean, we need to go to therapy for 2 years of therapy to work out this problem. Now it's like, maybe you should just get together. Now, again, I'm not a clinician. I'm just saying this is my observation. And this sounds weird, but also I think that physical activity is very underrated.
Yes.
Yeah. I should say that the best antidepressant in the world is a barbell. So
it's real. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's real.
I'm not saying you have to lift weights, but I'm just saying that's something that I like to do, but like something physical, running, it's something that's like strenuous. I think that's important to do, right?
When you push yourself, you'll get those endorphins. And not only that, but you start looking better, you start feeling better. It's
100%.
that I'm not a clinician, I could tell you. When I'm looking better, I'm feeling better, etc. But
you don't need to be one to know that. There are certain things out there that should be obvious. You don't need to be a doctor to understand, right? Like you know that. And I think that like from your brain chemistry, all sorts of stuff. Like, now, if you're doing physical activity routinely, then all of a sudden things start to get easier. And one reason also I like it and this is why I'm not some big jack guy or anything like that, but I enjoy lifting weights, or if maybe somebody likes running or cycling or doing something physical. But what I like about weightlifting is that you can show, you've got your little book here, or whatever. This is my book. You've got, or an app or something. And what you can do is you give yourself a success every time you go in there, because that day you got a little bit better at something, and it's tangible and it's documented. Like, I did 1 more rep than I did last week, or I did 5 pounds more than, and you can show it, you can look at it, and you can see I am a little bit better today than I was yesterday or last week. And again, I think that's more just in general terms, and we really do encourage, and we've had trainers come out and to get our guys physical. A lot of times, by the time somebody comes to us, sometimes they're such a medical wreck as well that we're happy if they're able to take a walk around the block.
Yes.
Right. Just like that, we're happy if that's it. They're not ready to start like doing CrossFit or something crazy.
Right.
We're just happy that they're being healthy and being physical, and let's focus on getting you off the drugs.
So, is there any way that anybody can look you up and help? Is there anything that people can do to support what you're doing, or maybe even if it's not you, it's supporting something in that realm?
Sure. I'll say this about you. Yeah, here's something as well. A couple of things. If anyone, one thing, call your congressman. I know that sounds crazy, but there's actually a bill that's in Congress right now. It's called the Access Act, right? And what this will do is this will improve access to care for mental health and addiction treatment for veterans. So just run it back, a little bit of background on this and why it's important is that in 2017, we had the Mission Act, right? That was signed in by President Trump in the first term, and it went into effect in 2018. That created the Community Care Network, of which I'm one of these community care providers. So what happened is the VA, unfortunately, and this is not like a, put it this way, is that, it tells veterans that, hey, if you need help, you need care, you should have choice in your care, right? You say, hey, actually, I don't think the VA is the best one for me. I would like to seek help from this community care provider. And that's how the law is written. What happens is, take you back to high school civics class or Schoolhouse Rock, is that when a bill gets signed into law, then the law from there goes to the relevant federal agency, in this case, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and then they've got a whole battalion of lawyers who look at it and they create policy based on the law. What happens is there's an awful lot of like artistic license that some agencies might take when they're turning that law into policy.
Or presidents or politicals or.
I'm trying not to be partisan here, man. But yeah, absolutely. I think the Mission Act is one of the best things that President Trump did during his first term. And I hope the Access Act gets it signed into law. So what they would do is they would actually now limit most VA hospitals will not refer out to community care or only do so as a last resort. For example, I was on the phone today with a social worker at a large VA facility in the Western United States, not going to name names here, but a large one in a big city that you've heard of, that said to me straight up that we do not refer out to community care for our type of treatment, like very intensive mental health treatment and addiction treatment. We don't refer out to community care unless all 3 of our hospitals in the state are full for the next 30 days. So that means that they have to have no beds available we're talking for their inpatient mental health addiction treatment facility. All 3 in the state have to be full, booked out for 30 more days. If it's 28 days, that guy has to sit on a waiting list for 4 weeks. As we discussed earlier, you don't have 4 weeks. No. You might not have 4 hours. So when you get them. So that's their current policy, which what that really is, it really comes down to government agencies like the VA protecting themselves. Now, that's not the intent of the Secretary of VA or the president right now, but that's what's happening at that deck plate, boots on the ground level, right? Mm-hmm. So the Access Act does, frankly, what it really does, it specifies, holds VA's feet to the fire, saying, no, you shall do this. Now, it's getting good support in Congress. I know that President Trump and Secretary Collins support it, which is good. But the thing is, there's obviously getting resistance. The Republicans is a Republican-sponsored bill, and it has support of all the Republicans. There are some other folks in Congress that are doing what they can to slow it down. As you can imagine. So it's really important that gets signed, that gets passed through Congress and signed into law. So to recap it, if there's anything your audience do, is call your congressman, call your senator, especially your senators right now, and tell them that you really need to see the Access Act signed into law to give choice for veterans.
Yeah, no, I'm going to look further into that because I didn't know about that, and I will help any way I can on spreading the word on that.
That's very kind of you.
Because what happens, and I know exactly what you're saying, caring for the bureaucracy becomes more important than the mission. And the mission is you got a vet in despair and you have to help them. And what is the best way to help them? That's the mission. And then the bureaucracy says, no, he has to wait 30 days because we got to make sure we fill all our beds. That's how you kill veterans. And that's not cool with me. It never has been. But I understand, unfortunately, I have now, 30 years with the federal government, and I understand how this goes. I really do appreciate you coming on the show. I hope I can have you again and we could talk further about this. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I love when I see brothers and sisters in arms trying to make things better for our other brothers and sisters, or just in general. How many vets I've talked to that and you have too, that have just dedicated their life to fixing society in some way, shape, or form, even if it's one person at a time. And I love you guys for that. And I really do appreciate that.
TV. Appreciate that.
We'll keep you in prayer over that, brother. Can you stick around after show real quick?
Of course.